Story 1. So, this story was told to me by my friend, and I'm not sure if this is a real life incident or not. The exact location of this incident is unknown to me. My friend's grandfather, a politician, was traveling in a car at night. This was at the time when many people didn't have the luxury of a car, and there were no proper road to reach home early. My friend's grandfather asked the driver to take a detour on the road, which was not frequently used by people because of the supernatural activities. He, being an educated person, didn't believe in the rumor and took the logical decision. After going further for around some 20 kilometers, the driver saw a woman asking for a lift. The driver looked at the uncle. Uncle ordered him not to stop and continue driving. They passed the woman and continued further. It was after crossing a certain distance that my uncle noticed something outside. The woman's face was clearly visible from the window, and she was literally running at the speed of car. She turned her head and then looked at my uncle, asking him why didn't he stop, and telling him that he should have stopped. This shock was too much for the uncle, and he died of a cardiac arrest. The woman spared the driver, telling him he was just following the order. P.S. This story was told by the driver to my friend's grandmother and was passed on to my friend from there. Well, I don't know if it's a true story or not, but it definitely gets a good scare. Story 2. I used to live in a house that backs up to a big open space where there are a lot of hiking trails, lots of joggers, and people walking their dog. Anyway, one night I had a kind of creepy dream that an older lady came into my room and was trying to get me to come outside. The dream woke me up, so I got some water, turned off the fan because it was cold, and then I fell asleep again. I went right back into the same dream with this old lady coming in my room and calmly saying, "You have to go outside now." I kept telling her no, it was too cold. I woke up again and my fan was on. I figured I must have just thought I turned it off, or the button must have got stuck up. So I got up and turned off the fan and then went back to sleep. This time I had the exact same dream, except she was much older looking and was really agitated. She was yelling, "Go outside, you must go outside." I got up in the dream and followed her to the hallway. When I got to the hallway, she wasn't there. And then I woke up, and I was actually in the freaking hallway. At this point, I was freaked out, so I got something to eat and watched TV for a couple of hours. I went back to the bed around 5 or 6, and the dream didn't came back. The most screwed up part of all this is that a couple of days later, I saw there was a police car in the open space, and when I asked my mother what happened, she said that the police had found an older woman who was reported missing a few days before. She must have had a heart attack or stroke or something on the trail by my house, and they found the body. Story 3. One night, I was driving home from work when I saw a little girl on a tricycle riding across the street and into some wood that dropped off into a creek. I pressed on my brake and skid to avoid her. Then I got off my car and walked to where I thought she must have fallen. But there was no one there. Then a cop pulled up to ask me what I was doing there. I told him in a panicked way he was the person I needed, and tell him that I saw a little girl riding a tricycle across the street heading into that area where it dropped off. He then told me right away that I saw what some of the other drivers here see. It was more than 40 years ago. A child was killed during riding her bicycle across that section of the road. Others have seen her multiple times, sometimes walking, other times on a tricycle. After some construction work was brought, there were a lot of changes made in that section of the road, with expansions and barrier and sites all seized. I still get puzzled. Was it really the truth, or is there something else happening in that area? Story 4. When I was young, I used to stay at my grandfather's home. They had a walk-in attic, which I was absolutely petrified of. And of course, I had to go to sleep in my room just past the walk-in attic. The house was out in the countryside. It was so quiet, you could always hear if someone was still up. I used to have really trouble getting into sleep and would wake up often in the middle of night, afraid to move. So I would just lie still. Anyway, one night, about 3 to 4 a.m., I woke up and felt brave enough to get over this stupid fear of dark. So I whispered from under my sheets, "If anything is there, please let me know." And almost instantly, there were 2 large knocks on my bedroom door. And I never asked that silly question again. Story 5. This happened when I stopped by my friend's house for dinner. They lived in a 3-story house, but their landlord rented out the 3rd floor. I had to use the bathroom upstairs because the downstairs was being used. And while I was up there, I heard footsteps upstairs. It sounded more like a little kid running. I shrugged it off and figured it was just the upstairs neighbors. After dinner, I asked them if they had kids or if there were any kids in the house at all. Then my friend looked at me with kind of weird expression and said that they haven't had any upstairs neighbors for a really long time. So I was kind of freaked out and I told her, I heard someone running, and she was like, "Oh yeah, our house is haunted. The previous guy that used to live hung himself in the backyard and killed his family on the 3rd floor, so no one really lives upstairs." And after that, trust me, I never went back to that home. Story 6. This is an experience my sister, her husband, and I had about 20 years ago. We were driving back to our house one night, going just past a truck stop, when an old man stepped out in front of us. Her husband, who was driving, got out of control and almost hit him. He slammed on the brakes later, and we were all freaking out. My sister and her husband jumped out, thinking they had just killed the man. But there was no one on the road. Cops came along and a few truckers wandered over and told us that it was almost a weekly occurrence that someone encountered this ghost. Apparently, there had been an old man who lived and died in that house across the road. Every night, he would go and check over to his farm to see if everything was okay, and his ghost was still doing that work. Well, later on, they tore down the house, and after that, make way for some heavy equipment dealership. And that was the stopping of all the sights that were happening there. Hey listeners, first of all, thank you to people who subscribe to our channel. If you guys are new to this channel, then please like and subscribe us if you think we are worth of your time. If you have any suggestion, please leave it in the comments. If you have any of your own story, then email us onto the link given below.